There is an overall problem with the opening pasukim of Perek 49 in that, on the surface at least, Pasuk Bet appears to be a repeat of Pasuk Aleph. In Pasuk Aleph, Yaakov states, He'asu v'agida lachem, and then once again in Pasuk Bet, Hikabtsu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov. A path of least resistance is to use the poetic language argument. This is the approach that majority of the translators adopt, such as Hirsch, gather yourselves together and I will tell you what will happen ba'achrit hayamim. Keep together and listen, O sons of Yaakov. Similarly, Kaplan and the Living Torah, come together and I will tell you what will happen ba'achrit hayamim. Come and listen, O sons of Yaakov. And in doing so, we can quite easily explain away anomalies such as what we have here, the repetition of information. And while there are segments of poetry interspersed throughout the entire Tanakh, take Sefer Tehillim as a prime example, and while we also have a statement in the Gemara to the effect that Dibra Torah Koloshen B'nei Adam, that the Torah does speak in the language of man, nevertheless, Gemara, Medrash, and commentators to the biblical text for the past 2,000 years have adopted a literal reading of the text, one which follows the words of the original very closely and exactly, identifying anomalies and nuanced changes, and developing new insights in response to those changes. With respect to Bereshit 49, in response to the superfluous Pasuk Bet, and with a close reading of the text, we might conclude is that what we have here is basically two separate individual calls from Yaakov to come together for a particular purpose. The first call recorded in Pasuk Aleph, with a second call recorded in Pasuk Bet. The content of the second call would logically be the blessings that Yaakov gave to each of his 12 sons. The content of the first call, that of the Achrit Hayamim, is not recorded in the Chumash. And to the absence of this information, the Gemara, and subsequently Rashi, writes that in this call, Bikesh Yaakov legalot et haketz, the intent of Yaakov was to reveal the timing of the Achrit Hayamim. This information required the involvement of the Shekhinah, and on account of the fact that v'nistalka mimeno Shekhinah, there was a departure of the Shekhinah, Yaakov was not able to follow through with his intent, and for this reason the Chumash is silent and moves on to stage 2, which was the blessings of his 12 sons. In support of this reading of the text, one will notice a change in terminology. In Pasuk Aleph, we are told that He'asfu v'agida lachem. He'asfu with the shorish of Aleph Samach Pei translates as to gather, to collect, to assemble. A synonym of Aleph Samach Pei is Kuf Bet Tzadik, which also translates as to gather, to collect, and assemble. And it was the intent of the narrator to mark the difference of Yaakov's agenda in Pasuk Aleph as compared to that of Pasuk Bet, by using two words that basically mean the same thing, Hiyasfu and Hikabtsu. With this we can respond to the second problem, namely, on what basis did both the Gemara and Rashi have for reading into the text the midrashic fill-in that Yaakov's original plan was to legalot et haketz, but could not do so because of the departure of the Shekhinah. That basis is, firstly, the superfluous Pasuk Bet, and secondly, the lack of any information regarding the contents of the V'agida lachem of Pasuk Aleph.